Okay. So let's look at consumer equilibrium. So consumer equilibrium refers to a situation in which consumers cannot increase the total utility that they obtain from a given budget, i.e., for example, a given salary income, by shifting expenditure from one good to another. So it's essentially when you've maxed out your utility from, I guess, buying two different types of goods, given the current salary, budget, income that you have. So for a consumer that has a given amount of money to spend on two goods, the consumer equilibrium condition is set to prevail if the marginal utilities per naira of the two goods are the same. So I will share that in terms of, I guess, diagrammatically or in terms of in mathematical equations here. So assuming that a consumer has a given amount of money or income to spend on meat pie and soft drinks, the equilibrium condition in equation form is this. So the marginal utility of meat pie divided by the unit price of meat pie has to equal the marginal utility of soft drink divided by the price of the soft drink, given that they're spending their entire budget on both meat pie and soft drink. So now that we understand what consumer equilibrium is, we also need to look at what the effect of price changes will be on consumer equilibrium. So there are two different effects that usually occur when price changes. The first thing is the substitution effect, and the second is the income effect. So the substitution effect is when, if the price of a good changes, the price of that good relative to the price of other goods also change. So that means this relative price change causes consumers to substitute from one good to cheaper goods. So a way to think about it is that if the price of meat increases, this higher price will encourage consumers to switch to alternative food sources, for example, buying vegetables. So you're substituting, I guess, what it is that you're buying. Whereas the income effect is when price changes affect your choices because they're really affecting your purchasing power or the real income that you have. So when price increases, you're no longer able to buy the same bundle of goods, and so you'll have to reduce demand. So let's look at the meat example again. When there are higher prices of meat, it means that after buying some meat, you will have lower spare income. And so you would then be forced to buy less meat because of this income effect. So I mentioned that we're going to look at marginal utility on the demand curve. And I said that the law of diminishing marginal returns will be important when looking at this. So the relationship between price and quantity demanded is the starting point for building a model of consumer behavior. So if we were to measure this relationship, it will provide information which we'll then use to create a demand function, then a demand schedule, and then a demand curve. That is, if we look at the price and the quantity demanded at various price points. So let's look at this table on the right-hand side. Let's say that we have, we can use gala again. When gala is 80 naira, people would demand none, because it's too expensive. Quantity demanded is 0. When it's 70 naira, they'll demand, say, 200 pieces of gala. When it's 60 naira, 400, and so on, until when the price is 0, people will demand about 1,600 pieces of gala. So if we were to draw this graph that we have here, this table, sorry, that is here, if we were to kind of illustrate that diagrammatically, it will be here, this graph on the left-hand side. So I want to take away from this is that the quantity demanded of goods tend to be lower at higher prices. So you can see this when the graph is plotted. So on the x-axis down here, we have quantity demanded, and on the y-axis, we have price. So as the price is 0, quantity demanded is all the way down here, 1,600. But as price increases, we can see that the quantity demanded keeps decreasing, and vice versa. As the price is decreasing, we can see that the quantity demanded keeps increasing. So there are at least 3 accepted explanations of why the demand curve flipped downwards. 2 of them I've mentioned earlier, the income effect and the substitution effect. And the last one is the law of diminishing marginal utility. The law suggests that as more of a product is consumed, the marginal or the additional benefits to the consumer falls. So hence, consumers are prepared to pay less. So think about it this way. Most of the benefits you get, let's say you're very hungry and you have a plate of rice. Most of the benefits that you get is generated by the first plate of rice that you eat or you consume, because that's what satisfies most of your immediate need or your desire. If you eat another plate of rice, it would probably generate less utility, sometimes maybe even 0 utility, because you may not actually need or desire that additional plate of rice. So the fact that you're deriving less benefits, yes, less utility, the marginal utility keeps decreasing. That shows that the rational consumer is prepared to pay less for the second and subsequent units, given that your marginal utility will fall. So let's say you are very hungry and you really needed to eat, and you got a piece of, let's jollof rice with chicken, dodo, salad, everything's on there. And they tell you that plate is 8,000 naira. You pay that 1,000 naira. But then let's say somebody wants to sell another 1,000 naira for a second plate of the exact same thing. Chances are you're not going to want to even pay that 1,000 naira, because, like we said, your marginal utility is decreasing. So think about it as the price, as demand is increasing, you're not, let's think about it this way, as your utility decreases, you would also require less of the good. And that is the end. Thank you.
Okay, you're done with the class, right?
Yes, I